kVp. So we know that longer wavelengths have lower kVp. They're not as penetrating. Okay, remember the long wavelength also is not as penetrating as a short wavelength because of the frequency. The shorter wavelength has a higher kVp. It has more energy. You can penetrate with that. So these are all things that, oh my God, we got all these things in a basket and they're all interrelated. Okay? So long wavelength, that is associated with low kVp. Now when we have low kVp, it's not very penetrating. And remember that cute little step wedge we had, that aluminum step wedge? And you actually have it in your book here. Morgan showed you this. Where'd you go, Morgan?
181.
181. Okay, so you see the 40 kVp right there? Let's zoom in a little bit.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Just you were saying that the differences in optical density of the adjacent structure, but what's the term?
That's for contrast.
Contrast.
Yeah, definition of contrast. There's a few different definitions, but that's the one I really like because contrast is like how black and white something is. Either it's a lot of shades. Remember, like the puppy. Okay, you look at the top one and you go, "Oh, that's a beautiful picture. This must be the best thing. We're going to shoot this at low contrast." Oh, no, they was just trying to show you the difference between low kV, or I mean not low kVp, low contrast and high contrast. The bottom puppy was very black and white, very few shades of gray, or like low kVp shot at like 40. Okay, the other puppy on the very top that had lots of shades of gray, or something at high kVp that had lots of shades of gray. Okay, now the reason that this works on that step wedge. Okay, did I give you the definition? The variation of optical density of adjacent structures. Variation. Yeah. Yeah, light and dark, exactly. You got it. So low kVp, we got our step wedge out. So we're going to get through. Does the dark area correspond to the thin part or the thick part on the step wedge? The thin part, exactly, because that's where the X-rays get through. When the X-rays get through, they're black. Okay. This all turn around next year when you use fluoro, because fluoro is the opposite, believe it or not. I don't know why it happens like that, but it just does. But on this one here, for all of your X-rays and everything that you're learning now, the areas that are light correspond to structures that are radio pink. Very good. The areas where the X-rays get through readily are areas that are radio lucent. See how this is all? It's like, oh my God, all this stuff we learned, and I can't believe it. I know this stuff now. Isn't that great? Okay, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Okay. So, so this is the thin part of that aluminum step wedge. So 40 kVp, we'll get through the thin part and maybe a couple more steps, but after that, pure white. You can't penetrate the thicker parts. Yes.
Is that number 4 on there? More detailed visible steps 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that have to do with the step wedge?
That's the step wedge. 1,
okay.
2, 3, and 4. Okay.
Gotcha.
And then we got 1 through 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. For the high kVp.
Less detail.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So getting back to this. So when we're talking about the 40 kVp, we're going to get through the thin part, but we're not going to get through the thick part. So it's going to go from black to white, or white to black, however you want to look at it, very quickly. Okay, it's going to be high contrast like this here. Then as we raise kVp, and people, you can draw off what you've learned in the hospitals already on this. Okay, what do we shoot a hand at? 50, 55, exactly. What do we shoot that chest at?
120, 110.
110, 120, depends where you're at, exactly. So take what you know. When you get confused, apply it to what you don't know. You already knew that. That's low kVp, that's high kVp. This is very black and white. This is lots of shades of gray. Retain that, okay? 40 kVp, black to white, very quickly. 100 kVp, black to white, very slowly. Lots of shades in between. Lots of shades of gray in between, okay? Got that? Now, when you leave here, you're gonna probably feel pretty good when you leave here, but the minute you walk out that door, you're gonna forget it. No, that's the way it works. It really does. I was in the same boat. I didn't forget. I still remember when I went to this program. Okay. So what you have to do is you got to go back over it and over it and over it, because this is really critical, people. You've got to understand the correlationships between these factors. You've got to know it. This is the groundwork for what we do. Okay. So getting back to this, a long wavelength, that is high or low KVP? Low KVP. Low KVP is what? High or low contrast? High contrast. Everybody following so far? Okay. What do we use high contrast for? Hand, limbs, extremities. Very good. Okay. So let's see. Oh, and if we have a long wavelength, what's the frequency like? It's a low frequency. Yeah, low frequency. It doesn't come along very often. So we also call high contrast a short scale of contrast. That's a buzzword. That's radiology. That's what it's kind of with us. Okay, it's a short scale. In other words, long scale would mean lots of shades of gray. Short scale means not a lot of shades of gray or high contrast. Okay, a narrow exposure latitude. Well, we already talked about that. Remember that? We were talking about our exposure latitude. Right? So let's say they both take off at like about here. Let's say they're both taking off about here. And this one toes or shoulders out about here. This one shoulders out about here. All right, so they're both taking off at about the same time. However, this is going to be A, this will be B. Okay? This one has an exposure latitude. And by latitude, we mean a range. This is a range of exposures. We have a range of exposures from there to there. With this one here, we have an exposure latitude from here to here, or an acceptable range of exposures. So which one has the higher latitude? A or B?
B.
B. See how easy that is? Yeah. Which one has the shorter? A. Which one is high contrast? A. Which one is low contrast? B. Which one has a long scale of contrast?
B.
See how this works? Oh my God, we went too fast. I was having so much fun there. These kids stopped. Okay, so we're going to go over all these. All right, but this has to do with latitude. So I'm going to throw one more in there. So if you got your tape recorders going, so good, that'd be a good thing. Latitude and contrast are inversely proportional. Yeah, see, Lima had that one. Yeah, was that your part? Yeah, see how it works now? Yeah, got it. She knew it anyway. She presented. So yeah, contrast and latitude are inversely proportional. As contrast increases, or in other words, we get high contrast. As contrast increases, what happens to latitude? It decreases. Yeah. So quite frankly, your range of exposures for this hand is much smaller than your range of exposures for your chest. Because with high KVP, we can actually get away with like 125 and maybe 5 mass and 6 mass and 10 mass, probably all the way up to about 13 mass. There's a little bit of a range of exposures there in there. All it's going to do is just land somewhere between here and here. The ideal would be here, of course. Okay. Now, is that the case with A? No, it's really not. You're going to shoot that somewhere around, say 55. Well, if I'm in my second room over here, that thing's really strong. It's dog nuts. It's like 0.5 or something. It's ridiculously low in the mass. But anyway, so you might have, on film, you might have like 1 mass, 2 mass, and 2.5 mass. That's going to be it for that. Whereas down here, what I say, we probably had, like 5 mass, 6 mass, 7 mass, 8 mass, 9 mass, probably up to maybe like about 12 mass. And see the difference there? A lot more acceptable exposures, and we still get a good film. Okay. Notice I'm always talking about film. This has nothing to do with digital. Okay. Now they probably go, well, why are we still learning film if everywhere we go is digital? Because there's still a lot of film out there, as you know, and some of you hang around. You met my guy, the other day, Don. He does the processors, and what did he say? in terms of,
Still out there.
film is still out there. You've got a lot of accounts, doesn't it? The doc in the boxes, you know, and the orthopedic surgeons and the chiropractors, oh, they'll never stop using it until they mandate it that they can't use it. Okay? So there you go. That is your correlation between latitude and contrast. So as contrast increases, what happens to latitude? Decreases. Very good. So let's take a look at this now. Long wavelength. What is that? High or low KVP?
Low.
KVP. What's the frequency like? Low frequency, okay. What's the scale of contrast? Is it short or long? Short scale, very good. What's the exposure latitude? Well, as contrast increases, latitude decreases. So we have a narrow exposure latitude. And then this higher level of contrast, it just means high contrast, you know, more contrast, it's all the same word. More details are visible. Like you can look at his hand right here, and here's what we come, and we talked about differential absorption.
Yeah.
Was that in this chapter?
Last chapter.
Last chapter, yeah. Differential absorption just means differences in absorption, okay? We have bone, which attenuates or absorbs X-rays more than soft tissue does. There's a difference in those atomic numbers, so you have differential absorption as the X-rays travel through. They're gonna absorb in bone more than they are in tissue. Everybody follow that?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we look at this, we're gonna say, oh yeah, I can see the bony trabeculae there. I can see a lot there. This is really pretty good stuff. And then we come over here, and we have a chest within a chest. That's always interesting, huh? So, anyway, but you know, how these doctors see this stuff is beyond me. Now, you gotta understand, this is shot with a grid, too. This one didn't have a grid. What, you guys haven't learned about a grid yet. A grid cleans up, it improves. The purpose you use a grid for is that it,
Absorbs scatter radiations.
see, that's what it does. Why do we use it? To improve radiographic contrast. That is why we use a grid. How does it do it? By reducing scatter. Yeah, exactly. That's what it does. Yeah, why do we use it? To improve radiographic contrast. So you look at this and go, wow, that looks pretty clear. Yeah, it's not bad because we used a pretty high ratio grid here. I imagine this is probably a 12:1. We'll go into that later. So it cleaned up a lot of the scatter. So we look at this and we go, wow, you know, this is pretty detailed. I can see the bony trabeculae here, but I don't know, man. You know, this is it's pretty grainy. That's not bad there, but you are going to see less detail in like a chest x-ray than you are going to see in a hand. It's just that simple. Shot with a large focal spot, okay? And that's not gonna give us good resolution, is it? It's at high KVP, which means as we increase KVP, what happens to scatter? It increases, doesn't it? What does scatter do to resolution? Decreases resolution, yeah. See how they all interrelate? Doesn't it just drive you nuts? Oh my God, how can these things all be connected? It's a conspiracy. Hey, it's a conspiracy, man.
Gotta eat those
Yes.
salad.
It's a salad, man.
Yeah.
Gotta eat all salad.
Can
Reduce
you
density.
explain latitude and contrast again?
Sure, okay. So as we increase contrast, see, this is an increase in contrast. When we say we increase contrast, it means it's more black and white. You've got to understand that principle first. High contrast or increasing contrast means it goes from black to white very quickly. Yeah, KVP is responsible for it, yeah. On film. On film. Okay? So yes, it goes from black to white very quickly. So do you understand high contrast and what causes that? Okay, so if I increase my KVP, my contrast is going to go down. It'll be a longer scale, lower contrast. See, you got a lot of shades of gray in there now, okay? Doesn't go from just black to white like this hand. There's a lot of shades of gray like the chest, okay? So if we correspond that over here, there's 40 to 100. So this would be like 40, and this would be 100. See? So it's more black to white. This is the range of exposures right here. This is the density. So it goes from just in a small range here, it goes from white to black very quickly, just in a very short little area down here on exposures. But when we come over here to 100 kVp, it goes from light to dark very slowly, okay? So now we just bring those lines down and we say, well, this is exposure latitude of these two lines. See, that's where it takes off, and that's where it pretty much ends. This is where it takes off for this one, that's pretty much where it ends. So we bring those lines down, and those are what we call exposure latitudes. It's the latitude, or range, the width of the ranges that we can use. Make sense?
So, the smaller the latitude on A is, the higher the contrast?
Yes, very good. And B would be the,
High latitude?
very good, yeah, wide latitude, and what kind of contrast? Low, very good. Say it with some conviction, kid, you had it right. Say it with me now, low! Alrighty, so let's run over to this one now, short wavelength, that's, what kind of the frequency is that?
High frequency.
High frequency, what's the energy on that? Higher, so that's gonna be our what KVP? High KVP, alright, so we got that. So if we've got a high KVP, we can expect to have what kind of a scale of contrast? A long scale of contrast, okay? And we have what kind of exposure latitude? Wide one. How about the, lower level of contrast? And so let's see here, how many, and your details, okay?
Not very much.
Yeah, not as detailed as like black and white. Okay, that's one thing great about CT scans, is they're virtually scatter free because it's a pencil beam going. Have you seen a CT scan yet?
Yeah.
Some yes, some no. They look like a picture, don't they? They're like so clear. It's like, oh my God, black and white. It's like amazing. Because tomo means to splice, tomography. Okay, computerized axial tomography, CAT scan. Okay, we just call it CT. So when it does that, it goes through there and it's virtually scatter free, so that when the computer generates it, it comes out just like black and white. It's really, really clear. So we can see lots of details. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if you don't understand this, memorize it. And I'd rather you understand it though, because all these things correlate, and we still build on top of this too. But this is kind of the pinnacle for film. And when we move on to digital one day, we will learn that KVP is contrast is independent of KVP. In this scenario here, when we're talking about film, what controls density, the darkness on the film? Mass. Mass is the primary. You got primary and a secondary, okay? Mass is the primary control of optical density on your film, okay? What is the primary control of radiographic contrast? KVP. Now, is that the case with digital? No, with X-rays, what you see is what you get. This is it. You were talking about the hot light. Well, we could throw it up against this hot light, you know, we could see what we needed to, you know, okay, a little bit better, but essentially what you see is what you get, okay? Is that the case with digital? No. We can alter that all day long, can't we? It's called a mouse ball, okay? Oh, I don't like that contrast. Well, let's just fix that right now. So it's independent. Contrast is independent of KVP when it comes to digital. It really doesn't have anything to do with it, okay? But it has everything to do with film, okay? So, once again, what's the primary controlling factor of contrast on film? And what is the primary controlling factor of optical density?
Mass.
What's a secondary controlling factor of optical density?
Temperature.
Yeah, that would be one, but let's say it's just the exposure itself. Just the
Speed.
exposure. Oh man, you guys are like going the other way.
Sorry.
KVP. KVP is a secondary controlling factor of optical density. Why? Well, we said as
What's
what?
attenuated?
If we increase the KVP, the mass is about 15%.
Can you repeat the question?
I think you were saying it.
Well, yeah, along the line, as you bump up KVP, it should already bump up the energy accordingly.
Okay, as we increase
You
KVP,
cut the mass in half.
the tube
Oh, it's more efficient.
becomes more
More
efficient.
efficient.
Yeah.
Ah.
The tube becomes more. So you see, we don't use KVP as the primary controlling factor in optical density. That's not the primary. Primary is mass. But a secondary contributor to optical density is KVP. because as we increase kVp, the tube becomes more efficient producer of X-rays and does what to optical density? Increases it, remember? Remember our lines? Remember this? This was, how'd they go? This was like this. Okay, this was like 70 kVp and this was like 80 kVp. Okay, remember this? 70 and 80. Okay, well all this right here,
Shifted to the right.
yeah, shifted the curve to the right and produced more X-rays. This little area right here is more X-rays. Yeah, because as we increase the tube, or increase the kVp, the tube becomes more efficient. Okay? So, once again, I gotta keep pounding these into you guys. I'm sorry, it's the only way I know how to do it. Okay, all right, we got somebody that's on board. So, what is the primary controlling factor on film of contrast? kVp. What is the secondary controlling factor of optical density on film? kVp. What is the primary controlling factor of optical density?
Mass.
You got it. Just keep it. Got it. Keep it. Keep it. Okay. And memorize this chart and go over it and over it until you understand it. This is key. This is key. Okay? Everybody understand that? Remember all the stuff we learned clear back in, like, what was it, chapter 1 or 2? Frequency, wavelength. Why are we learning all this junk? Hey, guess what? It came back to get us, didn't it? Yeah, that's why. All right, so snap a picture of it.